What up, random rockers? It's a few days late, but fuck it. We're talking Shazam. Shazam! I don't know if you saw that one meme. That's funny, and you'll probably see it as... I'm thinking I may just say screw it and use it as a thumbnail. Just because. So, just... if you hadn't already seen it. There you go. But anyway... Shazam this is going to be partial spoilers, but not yet. I will let you know when I give off the hands countdown. Also, I'm going to have to move this because I'm driving. Whoop. That's the best I had to do. I don't have a setup. Okay. Behind me. All right. Hold on. Now you can probably hear me over hopefully the motor and AC. Alright, so here's the thing. Let's just the Shazam review. Hopefully you can hear me instead of bothering to look at me. So, right now I gotta take care of a couple things. And, one of them being this Shazam review, also to deal with a spark plug issue for a weed eater for my sister. And, yeah, I'm, trying to get that figured in first. Probably gonna have to go to like a Tractor Supply or something. Anyway, getting off of work. So Shazam, seen it this past weekend. Wouldn't mind seeing it again actually, just to get a second viewing and see how that'll affect my year-end list once I finally get that going when that time comes, which is a few months away anyway. And yeah. And, yeah, the whole thing with the Shazam itself is, yeah. I liked it. I think of the Captain Marvel movies, it's the best. Of course. And the whole thing with the Zachary Levi's performance, as far as what he was essentially selling us on, as in big, but with superheroes, and that's exactly the tone that it had been promoted as, and what was delivered. However, the kid, Angel something, whatever his last name is, also starts with A. His performance of Billy Batson for what he needed to do was fine, but it comes off a little transitionarily meh if you're comparing it to adult Billy / Shazam / Captain Sparklefingers, apparently, which is kind of the butt of the joke of the whole thing, which isn't necessarily a spoiler, but yeah. The whole thing with him, sorry for the many pauses, it's my ability to focus. I can't edit this, so you're going to have to live with it, unfortunately. Even my lisp moment I just had. So, I do like the transitions. The kid who played, I'm going to be blanking on a bunch of shit, so forgive me if this is kind of pretty... I mean, I always warn you, it's off the cuff, and this is one of those situations where you're going to have to deal with that. So, okay. Anyway, yeah, I really did. I did enjoy the film, as most people have. So, oh yeah, I did, and for most part, in terms of execution, some of the things, especially the way they end things, despite it coming off kind of Power Rangers-esque, but less cheesy in a bad way, or at least in a cringy way, even though, and that's saying something since I was more of a Power Rangers fan as opposed to the original Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, kind of a thing. So, And plus, there was a lot of things that do pay homage to that movie, and I wouldn't be able to point it out to you since I haven't seen the movie, but it does make me curious to see the movie. I'm guessing it's one of the Tom Hanks gift with the happy birthday thing for happy birthdays, I think is from that movie, so at least I have some semblance of some idea of it, so it's enough to enough for me to go off of at least. But this performance, Mark Strong's performance, and there are some interesting choices. It's not much of a spoiler because you'll see it in the beginning of the movie. We won't count this as a spoiler, so that's why this is part of this half. Donald Glover. Yes, Donald Glover, not to be confused with Danny Glover. Yeah. So Danny Glover or anything like that. Donald Glover. Or Glover, or however you pronounce it. Known to have played Lionel Luthor in Smallville, most notably. Once again plays a big corporate father figure type guy. Ironic enough. Does it kind of well. And that whole storyline does it kind of well in the beginning, where we kind of start off with his character instead, and it's kind of a little in the dark. It's a bit dark, but it kind of sets up enough for his character, which, I mean, I guess that part I'm kind of spoiling, but we're not going to count it as a spoiler, technically. Before we kind of get into the actual parts of the film, I do love their performances, and more the interactions between him and the one kid that's the foster brother. Don't remember the actor's name, but I loved his performance anyway. I understand how some people find him annoying, but I found him somewhat relatable in my eyes. And on the certain cameo involving that more Power Rangers thing I'm talking about, involving a certain particular character that I just mentioned, smart move. And in fact, the whole thing itself was very bold. In fact, the other foster kids that are involved, and mostly his role is to kind of and Billy's role has been searching for his mother. So when you first meet Billy, you're kind of like, how is this kid supposed to be our hero thing, you know? But eventually they build up into it, give you enough of a reason to be like, all right, I'll buy it, you know? And when it comes down to what really happened with Billy's, it's kind of hit home, and the thing is, it does have some tonal shifts, but it's not terrible about it. Some people could compare those kind of tonal shifts to how Spielberg handled Hook, but I'm not even sure. I can't remember who just directed this, actually. But did good. I think it was Travis Stein. I'm not sure. But I do like how they did things. There's with this movie, that performance, it's definitely more so by the third act, where the villain himself, if not for Mark Strong's performance, is what keeps him engaging, and there's certain scenes in there that happen with him earlier on before he kind of goes straight up into that particular standard villain mode. They basically kind of he kind of comes off having a sort of Loki-ish moment, but I guess if we're talking about villains in the DCEU so far, he's probably the best we've managed to get thus far. Besides Michael Shannon's performance, I guess. Yeah, besides Michael Shannon's performance, and I guess certain aspects of some of what we got out of Ares, I guess, in Wonder Woman, I think those are the best we've managed to get villain-wise in this, throughout the DCU, so this is odd. Yeah, those are the best. And maybe Lex, I mean, I wasn't too fond of his performance, to be honest, but overall, I did definitely, and like I said, I enjoyed this film. I want to say it rocks, and I want to actually get more into spoilers. I mean, it definitely does drive home the whole family thing. Some of it does come off as it could beat you over the head, but it didn't really bother me. But yeah, spoilers in 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So, as far as with Billy's whole thing, it turns out, yeah, as you've kind of is somewhat predictable, but the way it is executed is done well, and that is Shazam. Is that Billy's mom pretty much just dumped his ass because he was, and her reasons for why she did is because she was essentially a single mother. She was gonna take up this whole thing, but it turned out she was just young and irresponsibly stupid, and just didn't deserve to be her mother, and she basically just abandoned him. And he mostly just abandoned him, and it sucked, and he basically had to accept that that's what happened, and had to accept that the people that he's been families with. And I know I've seen both the main actor in this one and something else, I don't know what. The big dude, the father, and the chick who plays the mother, I did see like at least the interview that they did with her on Collider Live, and I do agree with the Double Toasted guys. Yeah. How in the heck did he get that? Other than the fact that they just had something in common in being foster kids, which is why they wind up being one of the first times foster parents are actually put up in a positive and properly parental type of light. Which is very interesting. And given the background they give for those characters, it makes, as having been foster kids themselves, makes sense why they knew how to handle and treat these kids. The one kid who likes to play video games, I mean, there's the other kids, most part, despite the other lead kid, besides the one who played Billy, it's Angel whatever, those two actually knew what they were doing. They kind of are fine, but his character's kind of like whatever, but when he gets the powers, he kind of acts more like a kid, and they bounce off each other a lot better. And whatever you kind of get vibe-wise from the trailers is delivered perfectly here. And the moments like what happened with the bus, that might be to me the cringiest moment of the film. They don't show you that part. They just show you when it happens and how he chooses to handle it. You could tell, but the only reason why it develops how Billy has been since he's getting these powers, he hasn't truly embraced the whole hero aspect. And, he's mostly just been a runaway foster orphan, basically, throughout his entire time, and he's still stuck in that mode, and he's never been humbled or been truly humbled or had a moment of a sense of humility that led him to basically develop and embrace the hero that he's supposed to become, or at least that Shazam had chosen to be, but mostly because he was desperate, and given what had happened with Mark Strong's character later film, which there are scenes mostly involving that character that are that make you wonder how this is family film in the most darkest of ways. You could almost comparable to Dark Crystal, but for me, I'd go off of the first never-ending story, more so when it came to the main villain. It came to the main villain being the Nothing and the creepy elements of that. There was a lot of moments like that, or at least some that could almost be comparable to a Raiders of the Lost Ark situation. With the door situation and the one chick, though the way she acted, you're kind of not surprised, but it was kind of brutal, and I don't know if the kids are going to be able to handle that scene. Not to mention the office scene, which is just probably the most action-packed element thing in this film. It doesn't seem like they had enough budget to afford a stunt double or something for Zachary Levi, I guess, or to afford to allow him to do the stunts he needed to do to make his parts more action-oriented, but it's more dialogue, but the dialogue is fairly decent enough and works for what they need to, especially the moment after the bus between those kids. There's more to that part of the scene that is actually good, and I think it's more the payoff of the more cringier element involving what happens with the bus and whatnot, and it definitely puts more in the one kid's character development of when that happens. And was an awesome scene. Some scene when it came to that point. But it was just going into that point and just the things that happened, I was like, I mean, that point was a little, and even when it came to I think the funniest scene was with the robbers in the gas station. Once he found out he was bulletproof. And then basically trying to forcefully have him continue to try to shoot him. That was a Beavis and Butthead moment, but it was like a great one. It's like, here she is. Like, what the fuck? Oh my god. And the dude in the Kid, an example of kids. Seriously, don't try this stuff at home. You're not. Don't. And them just trying to do it for like YouTube stuff because they were trying to like do it and using the YouTube thing in an almost very similar way to like how it happened with Kick-Ass, just a little more tamed down, I guess, than that, you know, or at least a little more over the top, but yet not as violent necessarily. Unless you're considering it more Three Stooges slapstick-ish, but less dated and cheesy. So other than that, it's like, and the way they develop things, and the big reveal thing that most people think should have been set for sequel, but I personally felt it worked, especially more so because one other character that we've been seeing, the other kid that was helping him with the superhero stuff, that was that nerdy kid who was basically super obsessed with stuff, had super, like, and of course still referencing Justice League, but still being its own contained film, which is what's been happening since Justice League, or even more so since what Wonder Woman's formula has been, and they've somewhat applied it to Aquaman, and more so or less applied it here as well with Shazam. And the thing is, they can't exactly say their names without, like, doing revealing identity things, and which makes the whole and with the rights to the name Captain Marvel, it's tough for them to pull this off. The Wizard basically, and the guy who plays the Wizard was also the guy that was, ironically, he's in both Captain Marvel films. The guy who played Shazam played one of the guys in the Star Force that also was in Guardians, by the way. In Guardians, so that was interesting as well. I didn't notice it in the film. I thought it was technically a white dude the way it was looked. I didn't think it was a black dude. So that's just me. I had no idea until I found out through other reviews and then finding out I haven't seen it myself. Then, and I enjoyed this film even far more than Captain Marvel. I can even tell you that, though I'd say Wonder Woman is a better film. Aquaman is maybe a little bit more fun to it, but this one just has a certain thing to it that also works, and I don't know too much, so there was even some of the post-credit scenes I did. Basically, the Shazam family, or the Marvel family, or whatever, happens in the other kids. But they set it up enough and execute it in a way that maybe makes, well, given that his character is still developing on how to handle things, he's accepted it, but he has still a rookie and is still trying to learn to handle his abilities, and because of that, it made it so impossible for him to be able to defeat these guys by himself. And they set it up perfectly to where he winds up having taken the staff, figured out by taking the staff that he could basically give his powers and abilities to other people, which was something that was also kind of a part of the comics. Some of what is taken here, I'm told, takes mostly from New 52 storyline for his character, including somewhat of the costume design, I guess, and some of the elements of the origin of his character, of what's going on through the original Captain Marvel storyline before DC picked it up or something, when it was an independent comic book, before that company got bankrupt from being sued by DC for having considerably ripped off Superman. and then they brought him out and essentially ripped off Thor in the process. And some of the storyline stuff does the same thing as well, because there are different lands in a similar way to there being different, even though they call them realms in the movie, 7 instead of 9 realms, I guess, like with Thor's thing with Asgard and all those other stuff. And then, of course, our planet them we call it Midgard. Here, it's like Earthland, and there's other places, Monsterland, Darkland, blah, 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 blah. Some are, like, those are more obvious, I guess, in names, and aren't as, I guess, creative as, I guess, the 9 Realms thing with Thor. But nearly as much. At least they have more of a mythology to go off of. There's some, and a lot of his powers, the only thing that I think some people might complain, but it works better here, and maybe in the future, depending on if as the character possibly matures, that maybe they may, or maybe other characters might have it. And that is eventually the whole, I don't know if they mentioned, if the Shazam Wizard had mentioned it when he gave him the powers. I might have missed it. But one of the powers that Marvel's known to have had is the Wisdom of Solomon. That's very absent. Here. That much I do know. For sure. Mostly going off spoiler things. And, of course, his strength from Hercules. The lightning powers are obviously Zeus. I guess his flight abilities are for something else. His speed, I'm trying to think, I'm trying to figure out what that one comes from. Neptune or something? I don't know my Roman and Greek mythology as well as I should, to be fairly honest. So that's kind of what that is, and from the force of habit from having used to have glasses. But anyway, and that was awesome. I loved the actor choice for the one kid. That I forgot the one kid's name for some reason. That was helping Billy out. But the actor choice of freaking Adam Brody, Seth, aka Seth Cohen, OC himself, or also from some people who've seen Land of Women. Must have been in some other stuff that here or there that I'm not that sure of since then. But we all know that Christmas episode, and that alone, and mostly that first season, I guess, because that's as much as I got to see of it, really, is enough, and for the most part, other things. Makes absolute sense, and plus he looks like an adult version of that character, and it perfectly made sense. And now, though I'm hearing, even for like Shazam 2, they're going to pick a different actor to play him, and it's adult version, I'm like, really? I liked Adam Brody. I really liked him in this. It made sense, and I'm willing to embrace it, and I feel like people who will probably see the next film when he's not playing that part are going to be like, why? Anyway, and the other, I'm trying to remember that, the one chick that was, I guess, I'm trying to remember if she was in some other show, what she might have been in, but she played the one younger sister. Her thing leading up to her gaining the powers, and the married chick, I found it weird that since she's technically closer to her adult form, it seemed silly for them to pick a different actress, really. But I understood they had to, just to kind of make some sense out of it. But weirdly, no offense, but the chick who played the younger one seemed hotter than the chick that played the Mary Marvel, essentially. And her part was essentially like a Wendy kind of situation, Peter Pan-ish thing. So like the mother-ish character among the kids. But it worked. She was okay within the group. Though the other kid, the Asian one that has the video game thing, which I guess is sort of a stereotype for typecasting there, and he was funny when he was first introduced. Here and hit a little hit and miss here and there. I mean, more hit though, I guess. But like, you didn't get as attached to him outside of that one scene, but until the adult version where he basically does Mortal Kombat and freaking Street Fighter references. His lightning powers for Hadouken. And then I think the one reference to Mortal Kombat was great. And then, like, the high five with Mary was fun, kind of funny. Or at least the other, unless it was the other chick, but... them all getting their powers and kind of Power Engine it, though. I don't know why he has the black suit, since they did kind of hint with Black Adam, which we know is The Rock's supposed to, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, or just Dwayne Johnson, as he wants to go by professionally, is supposed to be involved in this, and he's supposed to produce it, and hopefully we'll get a little bit, that'll be more closer to a similar situation, I guess, with Wonder Woman as being more prequel-ish to that film, or at least maybe kind of similar, I guess, to Scorpion King, to Mummy, to maybe hopefully better than the Scorpion. I don't know, I personally like Scorpion King, and of course we got probably the only decent original Godsmack song that I semi know how to play. I'm just saying, I don't know too much, and it's one of the only songs I know of that still ages somewhat well. I stand alone. Anyway, and that's, but anyway, despite that, I really like this. Like I said, I like this film. I'd say kind of, I'd not only give a thumbs up, I'd be willing to potentially give it a rocks if it grows on me. But I enjoyed it definitely more than Captain Marvel, so yeah. It has its flaws, but it's still fun. It doesn't, even when it does have its darker tones, they make sense for why they do them, and it still fits within the stories. And apparently the character that was kind of given the cameo in the middle of the movie was Mr. Mime, and they have a the post-credit thing is like what's been happening with the past couple Marvel movies, though for some strange reason DC one-upped them on that one, because this one wasn't as dumbfounded about it, and plus apparently the international trailer already showed it, and that was kind of a little bit of a shot at Aquaman, but that pays off more if you've bothered to see Aquaman late last year, or in my case sort of early this year, prior to having seen Glass, and just to try to seem to want to add it to an end of the year list, but never really got around to it, sadly, and I may decide to have to just do something ridiculous and lump the 2018 with 19. I might do something weird like that. Who knows? But anyway, I enjoyed this. I think it's worth going to see in the theater, maybe as a matinee, especially, and I do agree with Real Rejects, because it actually works in 3D pretty well. It's actually one of the few that's worth your time in watching especially the Real D3D, which I know my theater does have, and it's worth it. I don't know how it is in IMAX, though, if they even do it in that. I don't know, but it's worth it in Real D3D. I recommend that for sure. I wish I would have done that earlier before I went to spoilers, but oh well. Hopefully, if you didn't care, and if you did see it, or you didn't care to see the spoilers, now you know. See it in 3D. But, anyways, Shazam! What did you think about it? Leave a comment below, let me know, and as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, y'all.